4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, hello, hello. Very excited to be with you this Thursday. It must be lunchtime, which means it's time for yet another edition of J.E.D.I Lunch Break Live. I am your J.E.D.I Master. That stands for Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, Holly Holiday of Holiday Advisors. And we are in the midst of talking about implementing equity plans. We are in the implementation cycle. As you all know, I talk about this as terms of cycles, of which there are 4, and implementing equity plans is one of the 4. We think of this as cycles because there is no middle or end. It also is important to understand that you can enter this work in any of these cycles, but eventually you will have to circle around to all of them. That's what it means to be a part of a cycle or a circle. I started this series talking first about planning because people generally start in that space, but it is not required. We are now into implementation, and then following implementation, we will be discussing what it looks like to be in the monitoring and evaluation phase. And then we will end this series talking about sustainability and scalability. So this makes some assumptions, and one of the assumptions in the implementation plan is that, and I highly recommend that you do this, is that before you go company-wide and make everybody do all the things, that you actually spend some time doing a pilot project. And so last week, when we were together for a short while, we've been talking about pilot projects and pilot testing. And so today we're going to talk about what does it mean to roll it out? And 2 things here. It's the rollout and it's the communication. And so some people think of these as 2 different things. I like to put them together, and here's why. So first of all, your communication is really about mix. The rollout let me back up. The rollout in general is really about connecting the idea that you have with the people and the systems. And so now we've gone from just thinking about it and doing the preparation to what does it mean when you're actually boots on the ground, if you will. And so in doing that, you really can't separate communication from rollout because they really need to be happening together. So first and foremost, I'm going to say you want to make sure that you have all of your stakeholders involved, that you have connected and adequately identified the resources that will be needed, and that the people that are going to be charged with the execution of the rollout have been properly prepped and trained to be able to do all the things that you really need them to do. I want to spend a little bit more time. I'm going to spend time talking about both of those things with a little depth. Let me start with communication. So first, in communication, what you want to be really clear about here is you want to make sure that you have shared with all the stakeholders the what, when, and why of it all. The what, when, and why of it all. Why is that important? Well, that's really critical because when you are doing something new, and frankly, let's be honest, any change can cause tension in workplace culture. And one of the ways to resolve some of that tension is to create some level of transparency around what you are doing, and also how it may impact other people. And so it's not just about saying, hey, let's do a little project. Let's do it over here in secret. We're not going to let anybody know about it. No, there may be details of the project that you want to remain confidential, but in general, people might know and should know, especially once you've involved a pilot project, which will likely involve outside stakeholders. You want to at least provide enough information so that you can create a level of comfort and information flow between your team members that you're working with. You also want to make sure that there is clearance from folks who are in governance, and this for nonprofits, for example, should include your board of directors so that they also know what's going on and have and understood the place of this pilot project in your overall program design. Now, when rolling something out, here's some things to think about. First of all, pilot projects should not be unbound, which means there needs to be some time limits around them. And we want to make sure that everyone understands that. I like to do a little bit of celebration at the beginning, middle, and end. And so I think a successful rollout requires that you start in positivity. For me, that tends to be about celebration, but it can also be about gratitude, appreciation, and acknowledgement. But whatever you want to do, I think it's important to make sure that you create a really optimistic moment, especially in the beginning, because this allows you to lead on hope and to get the very best out of your folks, making sure that they understand what the intent is. The other piece that I'm going to talk about, and again, it crosses the lines between the rollout and the communication, is you want to level set expectations. This should be viewed as an experiment, not yet as a permanent part of what you may be doing as an institution. Why is that important? Because frankly, it may not work out. And so you want to make sure that what you're doing, that people recognize that this is not necessary, that there's not a commitment to anything other than doing the pilot project. And that the pilot project, if successful, may be implemented more broadly, but also there is a possibility that the pilot project will not be successful, and that's okay. That the most important thing is that folks recognize we are in a learning phase, and they should treat the rollout as a learning, and you should use that actively in your communications with people about how it goes down. Well, hopefully that's giving you a little context about rolling out and communication when dealing with equity plans. And believe it or not, that concludes our implementation cycle of implementing equity plans. So we will be going into next week monitoring and evaluation, which will start out with data collection. Just to give you a brief recap of where we are now at this moment, we have successfully completed the planning cycle explanation. The planning cycle explanation included conducting an equity assessment, setting clear objectives involving stakeholders, securing funding and resources, and legal review. And then we moved into our implementation cycle. And the implementation cycle, we discussed leadership and governance, staff training, risk assessment, and now today, rollout and communication. So we will leave it there for now. My name again is Holly Holiday. It has been wonderful spending about 15 minutes or less with you, discussing important issues and justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. More to come next week. Bye. Did you enjoy this segment of J.E.D.I Lunch Break Live? I'll be back next Thursday. Come on back and bring a friend.